Everything good? Good.
We're just gonna test the microphones. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a little too much.
Love to feel welcome here by City Council. I haven't felt that tension in the air. So what a difference. And I made sure, I said, please let them know. And I'm letting you know, the Board of Education was very friendly and included us, inclusive. I'm not trying to interfere with anything.
Right on.
Saying.
Oh.
Well, welcome.
And we're so happy to have you here. Good stuff. Okay, half a minute here, guys. We do this. Alrighty, Mark, good to go? Good. I call the regular meeting to order for Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. We'd like to acknowledge that this council meeting has been held on the homeland of the Tanaka people. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda of regular council meeting of Tuesday, November 14th, 2023? Councillor Ray, Councillor Bassett, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the following minutes? Committee of the whole meeting of Wednesday, October 25, 2023. Regular council meeting of Monday, October 30th, 2023. Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Popoff. Those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. First order of business tonight is a public hearing regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 4130, 2023, 8th Avenue North. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to section 465 of the Local Government Act to consider zoning amendment bylaw number 4130, 2023. This public hearing is being held in person and electronically, with residents and interested parties being given the opportunity to express their views. This meeting is being broadcast live from the city's website, and there is a link on the homepage that will take you directly to the meeting. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws shall be given an opportunity to be heard. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict the remarks to the matters contained in the bylaws, and it is my responsibility as chair of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Members of council may ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public and not to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with the individual citizens. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaw should, at the appropriate time, begin by clearly stating your name and address, and then give us the benefit of your views. You will be given 5 minutes for your presentation. I will call for presentations 3 times for each bylaw. Once the public hearing is closed, members of council cannot take any further input regarding the proposed bylaws, and will then deal with the bylaws during the regular meeting of council held after the public hearing. The bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4130, 2023. The subject property is located at 8th Street North, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 4, Kootenai District Plan EPP 80589, PID 030-430-755. Zoning amendment bylaw number 4130, 2023 proposes an amendment to the mixed commercial residential zone C4 to establish a site-specific minimum parcel size of 1,800 square meters for the remainder of the parent parcel, Lot 2, after the subdivision. I will call on any members of the public who are in the chamber tonight to speak first. If you wish to provide comments, please come up to the podium, provide your name and address before giving us your comments. If you are on a phone line waiting to speak, callers will be identified by the last 2 digits of your phone number, or if you have pre-registered, we will call you by name. Please make sure you know which number you are calling from and listen for it to be called. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be allowed to unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you will have your opportunity to provide us with your views. If you have not pre-registered and wish to speak, please press *3 on your phone to signal staff you wish to address council. I will now call a first time for submissions.
Mayor Price, there is no registered callers. Maybe can you knock that down a little bit more? There's no registered callers and there's no last minute calls on the line.
Okay, I will now call a second time for submissions. I will now call a third and final time for submissions. Nothing? Okay. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for the proposed City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4130-2023. Thank you very much. Moving now into bylaws. First bylaws for consideration tonight, the official community plan amendment bylaw number 4128-2023 and zoning amendment bylaw number 4129-2023 regarding 1505 4th Street South. The OCP amendment is on the agenda for consideration of the second reading tonight, while the zoning amendment is up for first and second reading. Can I please ask Engineering and Development Service to provide a brief overview of the report, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The OCP amendment bylaw number 4128 proposes to change the land use designation of 1505 4th Street South from park/institutional/recreation to a low density residential. Zoning amendment bylaw 4129 is just a proceeding bylaw amendment required to allow this, which would change the zoning designation from P2 public institutional to the R1 single family extended residential zone. The intention of this bylaw amendment is to bring the parcel zoning and land designation into alignment with its actual use.
Thank you very much, Santana. Can I get a motion that council gives second reading to City of Cranbrook official community plan amendment bylaw number 4128-2023 and authorize staff to refer to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation and schedule a public hearing for the proposed amendments for November 27th, 2023. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Ray. Discussion. Seeing none? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to the City of Cranbrook zoning bylaw amendment number 4129-2023? Mover, Councillor Popoff, Councillor Ray. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously as well. Can I get a motion that council give second reading to City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4129-2023 and author staff to refer to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation and schedule a public hearing for the proposed amendments for November 27th, 2023? Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Blissett. Discussion? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next bylaw for consideration tonight is zoning amendment zoning bylaw amendment number 4130-2023 regarding 8th Street North and Victoria Avenue. The bylaw is on the agenda for third reading tonight. Can I get a motion that, subject to council's consideration of the public input received up to and including the public hearing of November 14th, 2023, council give third reading to City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4130-2023. Mover Councillor Ray, Councillor Graham. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to new business. The first item of new business is Councillor's resolution regarding the city's traditional territory statement. Can I please ask Councillor Ray to provide a brief overview and what I'll do? First of all, maybe I'll get Councillor Ray, an overview, and then if I could get you to read your motion, and then we'll have some discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. As a non-Indigenous person, it's an honor to present this motion to the table tonight. It's, of course, very positive that the City of Cranbrook has a traditional territory statement. We're all on a learning journey in terms of truth and reconciliation, and I just think we have an opportunity now to look at improving our traditional territory statement. And of course, this is just one step of many, but certainly an appropriate follow-up to our very positive meeting that we had recently with the Council of Acom. So just bringing this motion forward in that spirit. So I'll read the motion. Whereas the City of Cranbrook is located within Amakas Tunaha, the traditional and unceded homelands of the Tunaha Nation, and whereas the City of Cranbrook is specifically situated in the area known as Akiskakliat, and whereas the City of Cranbrook sincerely values our government-to-government, community-to-community, and neighbor-to-neighbor relationship with the community of Acom, and whereas the City of Cranbrook has the responsibility to make meaningful contributions to truth and reconciliation, therefore be it resolved that Cranbrook City Council directs administration to work with the appropriate resources associated with Acom and the Tunaha Nation Council to update and improve the City of Cranbrook's land acknowledgement statement, return to Council with a motion to approve the proposed statement, and integrate the approved statement into the city's communications. Thank you very much for that. Could I get a seconder, please? Councillor Stetsky, discussion. Councillor Popoff. Councillor Graham.
Yes, thank you. So in the motion of all the whereases, there's no mention here of what's wrong with our current statement.
Thank you. Councillor Graham and then Councillor Bissett.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy with our current statement.
Thank you.
Councillor Lissette.
Councillor Bissett, yes.
I was just wondering, have there been complaints about the current statement voiced by Tunaha? I just wanted to know if you had any information on that, Councillor Ray.
Thank you. I think our current statement is what I would describe as an introductory statement. I think it's great to see the use of the Tunaha language is really becoming the norm now in traditional statements. Hey, we have an opportunity. The motion is let's connect with the folks at Acom and the Tunaha Nation Council. If they say, you know what, your statement is perfect the way it is, I'm perfectly happy with that. But I think it behooves us to do that consultation. So yeah, I would characterize our current statement as a good introductory statement, but I think we have room for improvement that would better reflect our commitment to truth and reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Ray. I sit on a lot of different societies and boards, and currently our Cranbrook statement is by far the shortest and kind of least inclusive. So there are lots of models around that we can look at, but it'd be great to see a bit of an expanded statement from my perspective.
Councillor Bissett, then Councillor Papa.
So my frame of reference when we, looked at this last term was what they say at Mount Baker School. And I mean, to my recollection, it is that, you know, we'd like to acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional homeland of the Ktunaxa people. So I think this kind of goes in line with that. Brief isn't necessarily less in some ways. I do know sometimes that when I sit at the regional district table, they go on longer, but they also have to include other nations. And and sometimes there's hazards with that, right? Because you don't know if you're offending, you know what I mean? The longer you go, the more opportunity there is to say maybe the wrong thing. So again, any consultation with Ktunaxa is always important, but I just didn't know if the motivation for this came from them, but I'm not getting that. It's more what other people were thinking. Is that correct?
If I may?
Yes.
As a non-Indigenous person, you know, I think part of the work of truth and reconciliation rests with us. So we have some responsibility to carry part of that load. So another organization that I'm involved in, a few years ago, we updated our traditional territory statement and worked with the resource that the Ktunaxa Nation directed us to. And they were very helpful in suggesting the wording that they preferred. And so that's the kind of feedback I think we would benefit from. So as I say, if the Ktunaxa Nation or the community of Atkam comes back and says, oh, your statement is perfect as it is, that's great. But I think we have an opportunity to use more Ktunaxa language, like Amakas Ktunaxa is really becoming the norm, indicating the homelands of the Ktunaxa. We had valued the Ktunaxa language and part of living in Cranbrook and the community of Atkam, Akiskakliat, was to be learning Ktunaxa. We'd be in a totally different place now. So this is, I think, just an opportunity to take one small step, another small step on the road of truth and reconciliation.
Councillor Popoff, then Councillor Stetsky.
Yes, thank you. Interesting conversations. So in the past, I've had opportunities to speak with prominent members of Ktunaxa and Atkam, prominent folks, and ask them, you know, because this is always a conversation. It was a conversation at AKBLG the last couple of times. It's at UBCM as well. We're in those forums. What's the most important? Like, what do you recommend that we say? Because there's all different versions, and sometimes it's said 10 times in a meeting, and they come back with generally, whatever words you put, just make sure it has meaning, that it's meaningful. And okay, thank you for that. But there was no suggested languages on any of this. This was even before we came up with Councillor Bassett's statement. So, okay, taking that for what I heard, and I asked for many individuals, First Nations. And then, and frankly, I like the simplicity of Councillor Bassett's, but I'm not the expert, and neither is anyone else here. So if we are going to adopt this motion, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that we don't burden staff with this. I would say that if a council or councillors want to collectively go and speak with Atkam, we go and take that on ourselves. We come back, we report it out, and we're not burdening staff with then trying to interpret what the best options are. So if we're going to go with this, I would recommend that council or councillors, council take this on as their initiative. Thank you.
Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you. I know, again, with one of the other boards that I sit on, we did refer to a Ktunaxa elder. It came back with a couple of words changed on it, and basically gave us a real sense of comfort that we were saying the right things. And so I very much support the motion as it sits, and particularly since we'll start with a discussion with Ktunaxa people.
Councillor Ray.
In the other organization I'm involved with, the resource that we were directed to was to connect with Janice Alpine, who at that time, as part of her role, was to work on rebranding related to the Ktunaxa Nation. So Janice was a very helpful resource in suggesting wording that would be appropriate. So those would be the kind of resources that I would suggest staff would be connecting with, in addition to connecting with Atkam. I think this is most appropriate to refer to administration.
Thank you. Further? Councillor Stetsky.
If it's helpful, we can provide staff with names of people that they might want to check with.
Any comment from the CAO on this?
Thank you, Mayor Price. So just so council's aware, we have pretty strong connections and relationships with any of the folks that would be involved in that. So if that's the direction of council, administration can easily connect with those and
Yeah.
make recommendations back.
Thank you for that. Anything further? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? We better do a count here. In favor? Did you get them? Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bissett, Councillor Ray? Opposed? Councillor Graham, Councillor Popoff, myself. It's tied. The motion is defeated. Thank you. Next item of new business and for council's consideration tonight is concerns regarding the extreme weather response program requirements. Can I please ask corporate services to provide a brief overview of the report? Welcome, Marcel.
Hello, everyone. And I'm apologizing for my dress. I have been out in the field all day and haven't had a chance to go home and change. I think that this stems from when you read the acts and the legislation that help guide when you're making an application for your extreme weather response plan, it can be interpreted that if a community creates their own extreme weather plan, that you also get to decide what it counts as extreme weather. So we kind of built our plan based around that Cranbrook would differ a little bit from, say, what in their interior health has considered extreme weather. But then when we went to make our application, we were told that BC Housing wouldn't look at the application unless the weather conditions matched the Assistance to Shelter Act, which is -10, and or other weather conditions -0, and other weather conditions that can be considered life-threatening. But in Cranbrook, -10 is not really considered extreme weather. It's a winter day. And so we put our application in and we had to put -10 in there before it could be looked at. But then the stress load, because we knew we wouldn't be able to meet the demand of a -10. And if we were going to do that, we would just have a winter shelter, which is open 24/7 all winter long, instead of an extreme weather shelter. So after going through the legislation with a few people and the acts and the policies and the regulations that guide it, there was about a 50-50% chances there are people that said, yes, your interpretation is correct. You are allowed to decide in your community what is considered extreme weather. And other people that said, well, no, BC Housing says this is extreme weather and that's what you have to go by. So it was just very stressful. And I sat on a table with some other social development quarters for municipalities in BC, and they were struggling with the same thing. Like, what is the right interpretation? -10 doesn't work for our community. Some were arguing for like at right at 0. Some were arguing for a little bit colder like we were. So I just thought it was a really good opportunity for council to perhaps advocate to BC Housing that if a community is guided by a committee who's looking at all the facts in their community, that we should be allowed to decide what is considered extreme weather based on our community and our unique characteristics and what our population considers extreme weather also. So that was my request, in that council sort of look over our extreme weather plan, look at the legislation, and if they thought appropriate, then advocate to BC Housing to at least reconsider.
Thank you, Marcel. I'll put a motion and we'll go to discussion here. Can I get a motion that council approve release of the draft letter advocating for the BC Housing to review its policies and act related to the extreme weather plan? Mover, please. Councillor Graham, Councillor Blissett. This is discussion. Councillor Stetsky.
Thank you. So under the way the system is currently set up, extreme weather responses in essence ended up being funded internally in the community. Like BC Housing isn't responsible for coming up with the money to cover emergency response shelters?
No, BC Housing, they will cover the staffing for the shelter. They cover the food. They cover cleaning of the shelter in between uses. They cover first aid They cover some transportation to the shelter if you need to go out and pick up folks. They don't cover anything to pay for the shelter, like they don't cover any capital assets, like any sort of bedding or anything like that, and they don't pay anything to the shelter itself, which is why we have a real struggle, because any of our churches that were sort of interested in it depend on income from their spaces throughout the winter season to help pay their bills. And we're asking them to be available all winter long at any time, whenever the weather might drop to a certain degree. And most of them couldn't do that. They just couldn't give up their space to that unknown. And if it's at -10, chances are that space is going to be open a lot of days in the winter time. So they just couldn't do it.
Further, yeah, go ahead.
So what happens if they come back and say no? Now, having lived on the coast, -10 in that damp cold is really cold. But I agree, it's not an emergency here. So if they come back and say no, where does that leave us?
No, they've said yes. We have signed the contract.
Okay.
But what was told to me, because I called them and I let them know this is a concern because we won't be able to live up to it. And what I was told by them was, the person who, works with Cranbrook, was that they cannot force a shelter to open. So our alert has to go out at -10, meaning our community representative has to make the alert at -10. Then the nonprofit who's actually going to run the shelter, they will watch the weather, and then at -16 they will open. And BC Housing can't force a shelter to open, but they need us to do the alert at -10, and then we open when we can open.
Councillor Bissett?
Thank you, Your Worship. Marcel, I wonder if you could give an update on the current situation at the Travelodge, because I understood from previous emails internally that more beds have been made available and that we should be better able to accommodate people all winter long. But if you could elaborate on that, please.
Mm-hmm. As of last week, I think it was Thursday, BC Housing called me and let me know that they, the way Travelodge is situated right now, they have about 7 or 8 what they call day beds. So every day at 4 o'clock, those beds are open for its first come, first serve. And so we've had 7. But the motel itself has 10 rooms that it withheld from the shelter, and they were servicing like as a motel, but it doesn't get a lot of use. So we were advocating for BC to take those rooms also. And so we got a notification last week that yes, they had opened 9 more rooms in the travel shelter, and they should have staff in place and everything to have them up and running by December 1st. So that now gives us like at 15 minimum rooms. What has happened in the past when the weather drops in Cranbrook is that the travel shelter has a rule that it's 1 person per room. But when the weather drops to where it's life risking, they actually will double up those rooms. So I was under the impression that all 16 rooms would be doubled up, which would now be 32 people. That's covering a lot of our unhoused population. However, today they let me know that probably unless they get more staffing, they won't double up all those rooms. So they will double up as many as they can. And if it's weather that is life-taking, they will absolutely just put people in rooms, but they won't do that on a regular basis unless they have the staff to keep everybody safe.
So supplemental to that. So I take from that, then we should be able to accommodate most of our homeless population?
We're
All of
getting
them?
really close. We're
Okay.
getting close, because if they even doubled up 10 of the rooms or something, then we've got 20 there. Then the emergency shelter would do to between 12 and 14 people, 12, 15 people. It won't be everybody, but we didn't see those numbers accessing shelters last year. So of course there is more living or winterizing out in their shelters this year too. So we're getting closer, but no, I would say we still have a gap.
Councillor Popoff?
Yes, thank you. So first off, this is a great initiative that you're taking, Marcel. I know with your colleagues as well in coordinating and providing this leadership for our community. The report, I think, clearly is showing that what the different roles are that has been all already identified in your report. I like that. So we sign off the letter, but we're going to do it anyway, what I'm hearing you say. We're going to sign off for -10, but we're going to use our own common sense here in Cranbrook and take the initiatives going forward. So I think it's good that we do the advocacy piece.
Yeah, I think,
Okay, but I
yeah,
support this.
I think CEO Birchall has some clarification or comment on that.
Yeah, just for Councillor Popoff, just to be clear, in order to meet the criteria under BC Housing for the regulation, we do call the alert at -10. The restriction to response is similar to what you just heard about the travel lodge. So the churches will open when they can and due to staffing issues, and that will likely be more around -15. There's no plan to not abide by the -10. And similarly with the, additional rooms, it's the staffing that is the shortcoming.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I understand that. What I'm hearing you say is we're going to do it and we're going to use our own common sense as part of that to go from the initial -10 piece to then actually taking the action and bringing the people in with the plan you have in place. So are there any other communities that are also looking to adjust the interior health guidelines or laws?
I think, I don't want to answer that because I'm not sure. I know there's lots of other things, like people are being very creative. Some people are using warming buses. Some people are, there's lots of creativity to keep people alive. But I don't know what their exact plan says.
Further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Marcel. That was a very informative, and thank you for everything you're doing there. Certainly you're proven to be invaluable since we've created this position and the work you're doing with our social issues. Is really thankful and grateful for it. Thank you. Moving on to administration updates. Excuse me. The first administration update tonight is from Engineering and Development Services regarding the City of Cranbrook's REDIP application. Can I please ask Darren to present the update from the Economic Development, please?
Thank you, Mayor Price. Just a quick update on our REDIP application. We recently submitted to the Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program for downtown Cranbrook wayfinding project. Proposed is a recognizable and thoughtfully designed wayfinding program that will help promote rural and Indigenous tourism, attract tourists, encourage visitors to explore local attractions, shops, restaurants, and cultural sites in the area. The proposed elements are to design and construct one primary gateway sign located at Cranbrook Street North and Highway 3, so right by Garrick Sports. We are proposing to do a couple of $100,000 worth of signage there. Design and construct a secondary gateway sign, which is located at Lewis Street and Highway 3. Lewis Street is, I believe, First Street, right beside Tanglefoot Vet, right across from the History Center. There's a downtown Cranbrook sign there. We're going to replace street signs at downtown intersections and also create a wayfinding and signage design guide. So all of this work expands significantly upon what we had completed in the downtown revitalization master plan and our tourism master plan. I will kind of get to a couple of highlights, I would say, out of this is that we did get letters of support from Cranbrook Tourism, ACOM Community Enterprises, Cranbrook Chamber of Commerce, and the Tanaka National Council. I will also like to say that this submission is at no cost, or at least no or cash cost to the City of Cranbrook for this project. The total project value is $553,222. Our in-kind contribution, which is staff salaries from different departments, is approximately $81,000, and we are asking REDIP for $472,164. So with that, just open up the floor for any comments or questions.
Thank you very much, Darren. Discussion, council? Councilor Papa.
Thank you. These are awful expensive signs. So the gateway sign in front of Jarrick, as well as the one on near the Cranbrook History Center, big dollars on those. What are you anticipating for that to,
Mayor Price, through to Councillor Popoff. We did extensive research with communities in our region for the costs associated with recently completed signs. The ram horns and radium cost somewhere in the region of $250,000. Same with, there's a sign when you come into Canal Flats. It's a Columbia Valley Canal Flats sign. That was about $75,000. All of these numbers I've talked about right here were pre-COVID, pre-inflationary numbers. So we feel quite safe with the numbers we've put through. Part of the vision was also in regard to the Garrick site is to create something iconic and something like the goat horns that are in radium, something big and something memorable. Quite excited about this project.
so thank you. So is there going to be a committee coming up with what the goat horn equivalent will be for Cranbrook?
Yes, Mayor, or Councillor Popoff, there will be, this will probably take about a year. There will be public engagement. We've actually been working on this project quite closely with the stakeholders already, including Janice Alpine from the Tanaka and KNC. So yeah, there will be a process. I imagine it will gather quite a lot of attention in the community and also from council. And we're looking for everyone's input into this.
Thank you. And just finally, if I may, the wayfinding, is that going to be like an app that people will have? What's the wayfinding going to be?
At this point, no, it's more just the wayfinding is what we'd like to create is a design and brand guideline for the entire city. So it's not just for downtown Cranbrook, it's for anywhere in our community, whether that be wayfinding, interpretive signs, banners. What we want to create is a guide so that when somebody comes to the city and says, we want to do something that involves signs, we can then give them this. If council was interested, I could share with them the city of Revelstoke recently did their wayfinding design guideline. It was, mind you, $3.2 million worth of capital plus a few $100,000 worth of planning. So we're not going to be quite as ambitious as Revelstoke. But all in all, the desire is to create something iconic.
Thank you, Councillor Stetsky.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a really good initiative. Happy to see most of it's coming potentially from a grant. When might we hear about the grants, and assuming we're successful, when can we start the work?
Mayor Price, through to Councillor Stetsky. REDIP is anticipated, anticipate the announcement of the awards by the end of the year. Typically the money has followed 3 months after that. So sometime in the early spring, we would expect to have the money in hand, and we're ready and the rubber will hit the road as soon as we get awarded. This is been a lot of work out of the tourism master plan, and we've been looking to implement something like this. So we'll be ready to go.
Good. Anything further? Thanks very much, Darren.
Thank you.
Up next is from Recreation and Culture regarding BC Wildlife Federation projects. Could I please have Trevor present an update?
Evening, Mayor and Council. Quick update on Idlewild Park and a shout out to the BC Wildlife Federation and their funding partners, Columbia Basin Trust, Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC, and the Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Program. So about $40,000 was provided, and we used that to enhance accessibility and the visitor experience at Idlewild Park. Some of the items were pathways, door openers, barbecue and fire pits, and some interpretive signs. And the signs are now up, and these signs all have QR codes that are interactive with changing information that will be, the content will be updated through the Columbia Outdoor School.
Very nice. Discussion, Councillor Stetsky.
My wife and my dog and I took a walk around Idlewild over the weekend. It was great to see the signs up. It adds a lot in terms of what the value is of having Idlewild Park there.
Thank you. Further? Thanks very much, Trevor. Moving on to correspondence. First item of correspondence tonight is from Liz and Tim Truant, dated October 29, 2023, regarding BC's Airbnb regulations. Discussion or receive for information? Thank you very much. Receive for information. Next up, it's from Gord Milsom, Mayor, City of West Kelowna, dated November 1, 2023, regarding thank you from West Kelowna for the city's wildlife response. And that was when we sent some of our fire service resources over to help them with their wildfires. So it's just an acknowledgement and a thank you for that. Receive for information? Yeah, thank you. Next item of correspondence tonight is outgoing from the City of Cranbrook to Columbia Basin Trust, dated November 9, 2023, regarding Memorial Arena repairs. It was a request for financial report under my signature. Discussion. Receive for information. Thank you. The next item is correspondence as well. Outgoing City of Cranbrook to the RDK, dated November 9th, 2023, regarding Memorial Arena repairs. Similar request for support. Councillor Bassett.
I'd just like to add to that, at the regional district meeting last week, that Chair Gay mentioned to me they were looking forward to getting this request. So I'm anticipating that we'll have a positive response.
Very positive news. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you. Glad to hear that news. And we are asking for 2 million. Well, we're identifying the price tag of 2 million, but when we're talking with our folks, we may want to let them know that that's the starting point. It might actually be higher. So they might want to contribute even a greater amount for the total burden that the taxpayer is going to be receiving.
Yeah, we'll send you out to do the negotiation there, Councillor Popoff. Yeah. Further? Okay, we'll move that on for information. That brings us now to Mayor and Council's reports and inquiries. Let's start with Councillor Graham tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Been a busy week just in council chambers doing budget meetings and more budget meetings. I attended Remembrance Day in Creston this year. I had to do a few things up there, so I went to Remembrance Day there, and it looked like it was well attended here as well. So it was nice to be out there. And then for the rest of the week, I'm off to Vancouver for UBCM executive meetings. So I'll be flying out tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you. I was out there in the rain for Remembrance Day, and hundreds of residents were there. Great to see such a good turnout. Later, we went to the public session at the Legion, and what was interesting, among other things, there was one of the military personnel there going down the list of what Canada is doing right now around the whole world. And some of these locations I've never even heard about. So Canada is no longer just the peacekeeper, folks. We're in the game around the world. So good, bad, but interesting to hear that.
Yeah, that was interesting. You had to have at least a dozen locations around the world where Canada is actively engaged in either peacekeeping or training or more. So yeah, thank you. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure of attending the RDK meetings last week on behalf of the mayor, along with Councillor Blissett. Last week as well, at the end of the week, attended the As the Crow Flies concert at the Key City Theatre, which was a wonderful time machine back to about 1997. It was a great show. So I'm sure for anybody who was there, they really enjoyed it. Remembrance Day, of course, on Saturday, and certainly brought to mind for me one of my grandfathers who served in World War II as a mechanic. So thank everybody who helped organize our Remembrance Day ceremony here in Cranbrook. And today I had a conversation with a resident in the community who is just talking about his feeling that folks don't know what's going on. And so I just really want to encourage everybody to really seek out those information sources that the city has available. So of course, we've got our city website, social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We've got ads and announcements periodically on local radio. Our local media in terms of the Townsman and Eno are always great to work with, pick up our press releases. I think and every folks are busy, and as this person noted, they don't listen to local radio and they tend not to read the local media. And I think they were kind of alluding to that they're missing the news on Facebook, that was an easy way that's no longer available. But something I found helpful, certainly before I was elected to council, was to sign up for the council highlights. So easy to sign up, comes to your email box. And I would really encourage people to do that, to take that proactive step and to stay informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bassett.
Well, thank you, and thank you for mixing up the order there, Mayor Price. You keep me on my toes. So yes, last week was a busy week with budget and regional district, et cetera. And then with the Remembrance Day ceremony on Saturday and then a holiday Monday. And I'm really glad I made it here today because I'm getting confused about what day it is. And that's where life is right now. But further to that, I've actually had a number of people approach me and say, thank you for moving ahead on Memorial Arena. And that doesn't happen very often. So I think that's pretty significant. And also on a personal note, I live in an old house in Cranbrook, and now our furnace, it wasn't as old as the house because it was put in later, but still it was an old furnace, and we've converted over to a heat pump and on-demand water and a new electric furnace as well to supplement the heat pump. So anyways, yay, we have heat. It's been a long process. And the longest process in that was when we had to get the assessment on the house. That really took the longest period of time in it. And then submitting that to the government agencies, because then eventually we'll get some rebates on this. That was the longest part of it. Then once that was approved, it's been fairly quick on that. Of course, there are some labor shortage issues and things with that. So I do mention that because some people might be interested in that type of thing. And I would say it's about a year-long process anyways, in order to get that. But having an old house, actually, when Megan Lohman, who's the regional district energy manager person, was saying, actually making a change on my house is looked at as quite significant because of its age. So that's positive. And it will also work for air conditioning too in the summertime with heat pumps. So it's not only about heat, it's also about cooling and improving the air quality in the house in the summer. So that's something for people to think of, especially with a future of maybe more forest fires, not maybe, more forest fires and smoke in the air. So those things can actually work to help improve your air quality as well. So something to think about.
Thank you for that. Councillor Stetsky.
Thank you, Mayor. Remembrance Day ceremony, very proud of the people of Cranbrook, many who stood there without umbrellas in the rain. Quite a cold morning and not one person left during the whole ceremony. So I'm very proud of that fact. As the crow flies, great evening at Key City Theatre. They're hoping to get their music out there digitally in the future. It's probably not the right word, but so that we'll be able to listen to their music on into the future without having to buy a CD. And it brought back a lot of memories there in terms of their history here in Cranbrook. Two other things I'd like to mention just quickly. One, Dave Humphrey, who does a lot of history on behalf of Cranbrook and writes the piece in the paper weekly as well, sent this to several of us concerning the Memorial Arena, and it just makes so much sense, and it was really good information. And he says, I was really pleased to see the city has given the go-ahead for the repairs on the Memorial Arena. As the city looks for additional funding, grants, RDEK, it might be advantageous to remind everyone, including the public, as to whom the Memorial Arena was originally dedicated. And this was from Cranbrook Courier 1950 paper. When you read it, it says they're looking for a loan bylaw. Would never happen with this council, of course. loan bylaws, I mean, to be dedicated to the memory of those soldiers, sailors, and airmen of Cranbrook and the district who gave their lives for their country in World War II. The new memorial center, designed to take the place of the present old arena as a year-round indoor recreation center and auditorium, has been erected on the site immediately east of the Cranbrook, what was then the Cranbrook curling rink. And when you think about it, that's why it was called the Memorial Arena. It was done in memory of our soldiers, sailors, and airmen who gave their lives in World War II. November 20th is recognized in Canada as National Child Day and around the world as World Children's Day. Marks the date in 1989 when children's human rights were recognized, the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And so it's a day to remember that children need love and respect to grow to their full potential. It's a day to marvel at their uniqueness and all they have to offer, a day to celebrate families and adults. And when you look at what's going around the world right now, those of you who are inclined to pray prayers for children on November 20th, particularly when we watch the news these days and see what's happening, would be really quite appropriate. But it's on November 20th, World Children's Day.
Thank you, Councillor Stetsky. Yeah, Remembrance Day, yeah, the adverse weather, as Councillor Stetsky mentioned, what a good turnout. You know, that's something that I think Cranbrook is been acknowledged for. We have a fantastic turnout, you know, compared to a lot of other communities. And a lot of years we have the adverse weather and you don't see anybody leaving. And, you know, in the years that I've always been involved with it, I always felt that the more adverse the weather, the more fitting for the day. And you could see it in the people there that were getting wet, and they just straightened up. And I think a lot of people reflect that this is pretty minor what we're enduring today. Then you know what these young people went through, because they were kids, most of them over there, you know, and yeah, so the sacrifice they gave. So I think that was very fitting. Secondly, I attended the Asset Management BC conference on Friday. I zipped down there Thursday night for Friday. I was asked to attend to receive the community award for the community with acknowledging our asset management program. So it's interesting. There's quite a history there. We started in about 2005, 2006. We're moving along. We kind of hit a flat spot, and I got a little bit of history on their organization on Asset Management BC, and we didn't flatline. We just were kind of moving along like this, and then all of a sudden, our asset management plan and their commitment to it started to go like this. And if you look at it, it was about the time that the Asset Management BC was formed, this association. So yeah, they do a heck of a job. We had two of our engineers attending, Mike Matika and Curtis Mummery. And I can tell you, in the room, everybody in the room knew who they were. They're recognized for, I think, their expertise and their knowledge in the field. They were busy guys. There was a lot of people in the room wanted 5 minutes with them, just, you know, input and whatnot back and forth. So, you know, we always talk about asset management, and everybody wonders where we sit. I think we're really well positioned. We've talked about it here recently. We've got the buildings identified. It's just the ongoing maintenance and setting that schedule up and things like that. And other than that, you know, compared to a lot of communities, well, I think we're you know, well on our way. We're probably, you know, in the top 10% in the province. I was reading there on the weekend some of the some budgetary stuff in some of the other communities, and some of them are now just investing and started an asset management program. So anyways, yeah, so that's very good news, and hats off to our engineers. They worked tirelessly on that. So With that, that'll end tonight's meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Blissett, Councillor Graham. Adjourned. Thank you very much.